The Mishnah tells us in Brachas and Avalamid Gimel Amid Aleph 33a. The Gemara, the Mishnah teaches us that during the winter, during the rainy season, one must insert the phrase Mashiv HaRuach Umorid HaGoshem. We're praising God on the ability to give rain. And the Gemara tells us, Maskirin Gvuras Geshamim B'tchiyas HaMesim. We mentioned this bracha in the second bracha of Shmona Esrei. And the Gemara in Tainis, on the Gimel Amud Beis, Rabbi Hanina points out that if one says Mashiv HaRuach Amorid HaGoshem, you mistakenly say Mashiv HaRuach Amorid HaGoshem during the summer season between Pesach and Sukkot, which is not the time for rain. In fact, rain could be damaging during the summer in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore if one mistakenly prays for rain during the summer season, there he must go back and repeat Shmona Esrei. And similarly, in the opposite way as well, conversely, if one did not say Mashiv HaRuach or Morid HaGoshem during the winter season, Shmona Esrei must be recited again, it must be repeated. So we have the halacha in the Mishnah and Brachas that we have to mention Mashiv HaRuach Amorid HaGoshem in the second bracha, because rain it's the different things that were not given over to a shliach. God does directly. Rain, tchiyas hamesim, childbirth, so it's put on the second bracha. And if one's supposed to say it during the appropriate time. However, one says Mashiv HaRuach Amorid HaGoshem during an inappropriate season, he must go back. Just like if he doesn't, just like when he omits it in the season to say it, he must repeat. That's the halacha, and that's brought down as well. That's brought down. The post can bring it down as well. And Tosis over there in Tainis just points out the im shacha choma morid hageshem b'yamos hageshamim. If one doesn't make the prayer of rain during the summer, during the time of the Gesamim, then the Imshach Loma Morid Geshem B'Yamos HaGeshamim Aval Amma Morid Hatal. What happens if you said Morid Hatal instead of saying Morid HaGeshem, like the Minhag of the Svardim? Ein Magzirin also. You don't have to go back. And that's how we paskin in Siman Kuf Yudal Tzif Hey in Shulchan Aruch. That's why it's a good. The straight minhag Ashkenaz is not to say it, but minhag Sfard, if you say Morid Hatal all the time, so Tosis points out that you wouldn't have to go back. Nevertheless, the minhag Ashkenaz is not to say it, so if you forget it, you do have to go back. The Tosis in Tainis points out. He quotes from the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, that there's halacha all year round. If any time when it's between Shmini Atzeres, Musaf Shmini Atzeres, and Pesach, if you know for sure you left out Mashiv HaRuach Amorid HaGoshem, you have to go back. That's not a question. The question is, what if you're misupik? What if you're not sure? You know what? I'm not sure. Did I say Mashiv HaRuach? Did I not say Mashiv HaRuach? So the Tosis quotes in the Yerushalmi. They give us a 30-day period. The Tosis quotes in the Yerushalmi that we know a person's creature's a habit, and you go with what you normally do. So Yerushalmi says you need 30 days and approximately 3 times a day, davening really more because you have Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, but at least 90 times, perhaps 100 or 101 times. You establish a chazaka, you establish the new status quo, and therefore, after 30 days, if you know for sure you forgot, you have to go back. If you're Mesupik within the first 30 days, we assume you haven't established a Chazaka yet, and therefore you have to go back. That is the Halacha Tosfos quotes from the Yerushalmi. And therefore comes along the Maharam Mirutenberg. The Maharam Mirutenberg points out, and it's brought down in the Torah as well, that he points out that he, in his yeshiva, they used to even sing a song. He, on Shmini Atzeres, or before, he would accustom himself to saying, he used to go over. You can't just say the words Mashiv HaRuach, Amorid HaGeshem in a vacuum. That doesn't help. But he used to go ahead and say the words, say the phrase before, the phrase after. He used to say it 90 times on Shemini Atzeres, and therefore to avoid the question. So the Yerushalmi writes, if you do it for 30 days, it takes 30 days to do a chazaka. 30 times 3 is 90. So the Maharam said, you know what, if that's the case, I could do 90 times on Shemini Atzeres, and therefore for the first 30 days, if I'm a supik, I would not have to go back. So that's what the Maharam Mirutenberg says, that if one became, because therefore one becomes accustomed to saying Mashiv HaRuach, so he says that if 90 times over 30 days, if 30 days 3 times a day creates a habit, so the Maharam Mirutenberg says how much more so 90 times in the same day. And the proof is, the Maharam is from our Gemara, from the Gemara in Baba Kama and Daf Chav Daled. The Gemara has a machlokes in the Gemara regarding a shor hamuad. A muad, so animal that gores on 3 separate days. So that's the Gemara. If you gore 3 consecutive days, 3 days, you become a shor muad. Comes along with Meir and says, if Richot Nigosav, if you become a shor muad on 3 separate days, that establishes a pattern of wild behavior. Certainly 3 closer days, i.e. on the same day, that establishes a pattern of wild behavior, and it renders the animal a shor muad. As the Gemara says, Richot Nigosav chayev, if you chayev on 3 separate days, Kirav Nigosav, how much more so if you do 3 in one day? So that's what the Maharam Mirutenberg says here. If 30 days 3 times a day creates a chazaka, how much more so 90 times in one day? That's the opinion of the Maharam Mirutenberg, and Rabbeinu Peretz disagrees with the Maharam, and he says the rabbis in France didn't agree, and he doesn't know of anyone, Rabbeinu Peretz said, who did this, who sat there on Shmini Atzeres for 90 times and said this. Apparently they felt, the Rabbeinu Peretz is saying, that 90 times in one day is not effective. That 30 days 3 times a day, that's effective to create a chazaka. But 90 times in one day, apparently they felt it wasn't effective. That's Rabbeinu Peretz. And the Shlach HaKadosh, he also takes issue with the ruling of the Maharam Mirutenberg. He says, because it's true, the Gemara does say, but that's a Rameir's opinion, that 3 gorings in one day makes it a shor muad. But Rabbi Yehuda disagrees and says you need 3 separate days, and we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. So according to Rabbi Yehuda's view, then it would come out that it should be ineffective. It's like you need 3 separate days to establish a shor muad, so too you need 30 days 3 times a day to establish a pattern. And therefore, according to Rabbeinu Peretz, it wouldn't help, and therefore there's nothing you could do until after the first 30 days. The only thing you can do is make sure you know bavada you said it, because if you're not sure, so then one would have to repeat. That's the kasha, that's Rabbeinu Peretz and the Shua. However, the Magen Avram over there in Simon Kuf Yudalid, he wants to defend the opinion of the Maharam Rivernberg. And he wants to say it's true against the Shra. It's true that there is a machlokas in the Gemara between Rabbi Yehuda and Rav Meir regarding how does someone become a Shor Muad. But the Magen Avraham says that really Rabbi Yehuda agrees in principle with Rav Meir, that doing something in a closer proximity, a closer time period, is more effective in establishing a chazaka pattern than doing it in longer intervals. So in other words, and therefore the Maharam Rabbi Yehuda would agree that if 30 times 3 times a day makes a chazaka, certainly 90 times in one day. If that's the case, then why does Rabbi Yehuda disagree regarding the Shor Muad? Why do you need 4? Why do we need 3? And therefore, he says, in that case, we attribute that the fact that the animal gored 3 times in one day, we attribute to it that the animal must have went crazy today. It's a temporary state. But it doesn't really set a pattern. It just means that the animal went nuts today. But regard Mashiv HaRuach and Moragashim, there is no concept that you went crazy, meaning you're establishing a chazaka. Therefore, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree that Mashiv HaRuach 90 times on the same day is effective, and he would agree with the Maharam. So that, so Mikra, we seem to go if someone does 90 times according to the Magen Avraham. If you do 90 times in one day, like the Maharam recommends, so therefore it would be a good chazaka. And Rav Shimon Shkop and others point out that this machlokas between the Maharam Ruremberg and Rabbeinu Peretz has to do with a chakira regarding chazaka. The quote from Rav Shimon Shkop, if I could read it, that the Pugasa Toli B'Chakira Yedua. This issue is it revolves around a famous question. Im Hatam Shana. In other words, why does a shore become a muad? When a shore gores 3 times, it becomes a shore muad. What is that? Why? What does it mean? Im Hatam Shana Muad Begimul Pamim Have Hayonatchan. In other words, it's a simon that the fact that you gored 3 times, that makes you into a natchan? Or no? What do I say? The Gimel Pamim Havirak Giloi Milsa. It's only a simon. Right, so the other one's a siba. If you say it's a siba, it's the 3 times that caused you to become a muad. If you say it's a simon, it's just coincidental. Now I know, but it wasn't the 3 gorings that caused. It's just a sign that now this animal. So that's the question here. So by Mashiv HaRuach, you could only say, in other words, by Mashiv HaRuach, it's clear it's a siba. That by you saying it 90 times, you are changing the pattern. But by the Shor Muad, that's the question. So it's clear. So the Maharam Ruremberg holds that Shor Muad is also a siba. So it's a siba, so you can learn out one from the other. But according to Rabbeinu Peretz, he must hold it's only a siman, it's only a sign. So you can't bring me a proof from a chazaka regarding a siman, like by Shor Muad, to a halacha regarding my Mashiv HaRuach, that it's a siba. And therefore that's the pshat in the Maharam Ruremberg, and that's the meaning. If one wants to avoid the shiloh for the first 30 days, one can rely on the opinion of the Maharam Ruremberg and go 90 days, say it 90 times at one point. I just want to point out According to the Yerushalmi, 30 days is not just random. It's only someone who davens for 30 days, and he davens 3 times a day and 4. But if someone, the fact that 30 days passed and you haven't davened in 3 weeks, there is no chazakah. You have to actually do it. You have to actually set the pattern.